Hi, I'm Manoj Kulwal. I'm the co-founder and chief risk officer at RiskSpotlight, based out of UK, and we do consulting, training, and content services for risk management practitioners in UK. I think the biggest change we are expecting is the move from focusing on risk management on just value protection to also contribute to value creation within the organization. Traditionally, risk management has been about things like insurance, preventing events, incidents, accidents, which are all important activities, but then they focus only on the value protection aspect. And the board and the senior management, they are looking for a much better return on investment they're making on risk management within the organization. And that's where a lot of focus is also shifting to see how risk management can also contribute to creating value for the organization. And that, of course, involves integrating risk management with the strategic objectives and the strategic implementations within the organization. So that's where I see there is a big shift which would happen, over the next 5 to 10 years. And it's already happening. So it's going to gain more momentum, going from value protection to value creation. So there is an increasing recognition in the last 3 or 4 years that risk management is not a rational process. You cannot just define a control and then assume that that control will work under all circumstances. And that's especially the case if human beings are involved with those controls. So organizations are starting to realize that a lot of the risk management processes, a lot of risk management controls, they need to be implemented considering the human and cultural factors. So if we talk about the human factors, examples of those human factors may include biases, which are commonly documented in psychology type material, where if you're doing risk identification or risk assessment, then there are lots of human biases which may influence the outcome of those activities like risk identification and risk assessment. So we need to consider those human biases, and also when we're doing the human assessment, and also when we are doing risk assessment, we generally assign that to an individual. We also need to see whether is that the right person who should be doing the risk assessment, because again, the experience that person has on that given risk, the circumstances he's under at that given point in time may influence the output of the risk assessment. In addition to human factors, the cultural factors are also important, and 2 things to consider on the cultural factors is the culture within the organization, that every organization has its own culture, which will then again drive the risk management activities. So if you are a very entrepreneurial type of organization, you may want to take a lot of risks, make very fast decision, not necessarily do as much due diligence for every decision. But if you are a large organization, you may want to do a lot more due diligence. Decisions have to be made by committee, and that sort of organization culture needs to be considered when we are applying risk management. And then the second aspect of the culture is, of course, the society that the organization operates in a society. So Google is an American organization, but when it operates in France, there is a certain culture, it will have to be aware of that if French people are involved in risk management activities, then the way they would react and participate may be very different than the Google employees in China or the Google employees in Malaysia. So I think those are the 2 cultural factors which need to be considered: the culture within the organization, but then also the culture of the people who are participating in that exercise. So I think this is also another realization after the financial crisis, where organizations were looking at risks and controls individually. And then, of course, a lot of the big risks, they were sitting within the bigger systems. So one of the techniques which organizations are increasingly starting to use is apply the systems thinking approach, where you don't necessarily look at the individual risks and controls, but you apply the system dynamics or the system thinking type theory, and you create the system within which the organization is operating, and that helps you identify the different causal relationship of the key variables in your system, and that can become a much better way to identify whether there are big risks your organization needs to be aware of. If we don't apply the big systems thinking, then yes, you will find out about the smaller risk, but there is a chance that you may miss out a very big risk, which may be sitting within the overall organization, or which may even be sitting within the value chain of the organization. So I think for systems thinking approach, the established practice is to use the system dynamics techniques. So the main step of the system dynamic technique is you take a system. So let's say an organization have a sales system, where there are a lot of people and technologies and processes involved in the sales process of an organization. So what you would do with the system dynamics approach is take the key variables within your sales environment and then try and build the relationship in terms of which variables influence other variables, and that will give you sort of a causal chain of all the key variables into your sales system, and that can help you identify whether there are any vulnerabilities within the sales system, or there are any risks which are sitting within the system. So that sort of is one basic way in which you can apply the system dynamics approach. Is just pick a system you want to analyze, and then pick the key variables, which could be people, which could be processes, systems which support that process, and to just try to understand the relationship between those different variables.